There are a lot of great reasons to study leadership, to practice leadership, to gain leadership skills, to step into leadership roles. I have experts on the podcast all the time. I read so many leadership books about how you can impact the world. Leadership is going to change the world for the better. Leadership changes organizations. With leadership, you get things done. Other people talk about how leadership is just a privilege and you get to servant leadership. There's nothing more rewarding than impacting somebody else's life, especially if they work for you and you can make a difference in their lives. There's so many good reasons why stepping into leadership and learning leadership is such a good idea. And none of those are the reasons why I'm going to talk about it today. For me, leadership is great for all those reasons, but I think about leadership as a place for personal transformation. For me, every time I step into leadership, every time I take on a role in a project or in some relationship as a leader, I grow, my range grows, I expand, I become a little more free, I become a little more powerful in my own life. And that's why I love leadership. All the other things, again, are great. But for me, it's that personal transformation, which makes my impact even better. And I go back and I think about when I became a dad, when I became a father to my two sons. I was a good guy. I was a leader. I was going along okay in life with that. But when I had kids, and if those of you who are parents totally understand this, what made me a man was being a dad. What made me into a leader was being a dad. What made me to being a consequential human with gravitas, with values, and with impact was becoming a dad. And becoming a dad was kind of an entree into being a leader, if that makes sense. I did things for myself. I did things for my family that I wouldn't have done if I wasn't a dad. I went through fears. I burst through fears. I burst through limitations. In fact, when I became a dad, I was making $26,000 a year. That year, I doubled my income the first year when I had a kid, and then I doubled it again, and I doubled it again. Right. So I went from $26,000 a year to $500,000 a year. And all of that was because I took on the mantle of fatherhood and turned into this person who could be there for my sons. And to this day, my sons challenge me to have conversations, whether they're political, whether they're spiritual, whether they're just life conversations. They challenge me to show up in a way that I'm a leader, and my personal opinions, my personal triggers, all those things. I have to deal with those when I'm giving my children advice, when I'm working with them on perspective, right? So I raise myself to another level because I want to be the best father I can be. Now I'm not perfect, and my kids joke, like we'll walk someplace, and then I'll see some clothes on a on a hanger somewhere, and then I want to go shopping, and they'll grab me, and they know their dad has ADD and would rather go shopping than most things. So that we do have a lot of fun, but this thing about being a father and turning into just a better version of myself when I'm a father. It's the same thing for leadership. When I talk about in the Rising Leader program and in the Rising Leader book, and we talk about this on the podcast all the time, is when you take on the mantle of leadership, a lot of your personal preferences, a lot of your personal idiosyncrasies have to be dropped for the mission at hand, whether it's guiding someone you're having a conversation with, whether it's learning to listen rather than give advice. It's stepping through fears. One of the biggest fears that leaders that I work with have is giving tough feedback. They just don't want to hurt people's feelings, right? So how do you learn that skill of holding someone you care about, holding someone you feel in high regard, and then giving them constructive criticism? That grows you inside. But Now let's just talk about setting boundaries. Like say, so if you're a people pleaser, if that's what you've been all your life, but now all of a sudden, like there's demands on you and you have to make decisions about resources and time, and you actually have to speak up in a meeting and so vulnerability and say, you know what, I can't do that because I don't have the resources or I don't have the skills. You start to grow in every conversation. My favorite thing about the Rising Leader Handbook is when we talk about leading up, becoming a trusted advisor, when we talk about leading across, leading on a team of peers, leading your team, leading yourself, all these conversations, all these situations are specifically so you can grow. When you speak truth to power, you feel a little more powerful yourself. When you're able to trust yourself and risk having a different opinion in a team meeting, and know that you can trust yourself, whether it's accepted, whether it's not accepted, and you're going to be fine. You grow. So for me, leadership is the best. I probably second to marriage. Marriage is probably the best spiritual transformation growth you can ever have. And I think leadership is the second. So throw your hat in the ring, right? We're all the imposters. This imposter syndrome thing is part of the package. We're all imposters. We're all going to move through life and get, if we're lucky, move through the ranks and do jobs that we're not qualified for yet and grow into them. So don't worry about being an imposter. It just means you're growing and stretching and doing things you haven't done before, and lean in, because I think this whole leadership thing, if you turn it on yourself, will turn you into the person you never thought you could be. Thank you for listening. I love you a ton. Have a great rest of the day.